Hey guys, welcome back to Real Housewives Recaps. Today we're talking the movie Mannequin. 1987 Kim Cattrall movie, fabulous movie. I grew up watching it and loving it, and I'm so excited to talk about it. A lot of you guys requested that I go through it, so let's jump in. I'm so excited. Check out my merch, link below. I got Midnight Toast, Justice for Steve. It's a load of pants. Or find me on Patreon. It's patreon.com/Real Housewives Recaps. So I actually did a lot of research on this one because I used to love this movie so much. I thought it'd be fun. So we're going to talk our way through it. And I actually broke it up into parts because I have lots to say about this movie. So this one came out in 1987. Kim Cattrall was 30 years old. Andrew McCarthy was 24 years old. I love Andrew McCarthy. I always had such a crush on him. So as far as watching this movie goes, honestly, I tried to hunt it down and couldn't find it. If you have somebody in your life who is creative, you might be able to find it online somewhere. I'm not sure. But anyway, okay, movie. I couldn't find it streaming anywhere. I did read it was available on Roku, but I don't have that, so I'm not really sure the details of that. So let's see here. We're in Egypt. It says a long time ago, right before lunch. We see it's Emma, who goes by Emmy, is hiding. She's saying, please, gods, please get me out of this. Her mother has come looking for her. She's supposed to get married. Who's she going to marry? The camel dung dealer. So she's saying, no, don't make me do this. I want to fly away. I don't want to do this. So mom is played by Phyllis Newman. She's been in a lot of things. 30-something, if you ever watched that, she was in that. Okay. So she's again, Emmy is praying. All of a sudden, the ground shakes. She disappears, and her robes drop. Then we have the opening song. It's sung by Belinda Carlisle. It's a very catchy song. It's called "In My Wildest Dreams." So I just remember this as a kid. I love this song. This movie came out when I was like 7, and I just remember the animation. It's just a fun cartoon, kind of explaining how she's time traveled. She tried all these different places. She ended up becoming, it's a very loose storyline, you guys. You just have to go with it. So she became a mannequin, basically. She got put in the mannequin making machine, according to the cartoon. So this is set in Philadelphia. It's supposed to be today, 1987 today, to be exact. Okay, so let me tell you about this movie. Director Michael Gottlieb, he had the idea for this movie because he walked by a store window, saw a mannequin, and because of the way they had it positioned and the optical illusion of it all, he thought he saw it moving. But it was the lights, it was the shadows, that sort of thing. So it made him start thinking about this idea. What if a mannequin came to life? And that's how the story came about, which is hilarious to me. We're introduced to Jonathan Switcher, played by Andrew McCarthy. I love Andrew McCarthy. So originally, this movie was going to be an older, lonely shopkeeper, I think, storekeeper. They had Dudley Moore in mind. But when Andrew McCarthy came on board, they changed the character around. They made him a young artist instead. So we see this montage of these jobs. He's created this mannequin. It's his work of art. He considers himself a sculptor. He said it took 6 days to make her. He can knock out like 3 or 4 a month. And he said, you're supposed to be, he talks like this, you're supposed to be doing 3 or 4 a day. Now get back to work. But he ends up getting fired from that. He gets fired from lots of jobs. He gets fired from this balloon making job. Again, he's trying to be a sculptor. He gets fired from this one because he gives the obnoxious birthday boy the balloon he requests, and it makes the boy lift off into the air. So going back to facts about the movie. So that mannequin that we saw him make 2 jobs ago, so that's where we see him building Emmy. He's picking out pieces for arms, legs, everything else. So turns out the real Emmy mannequin, they had a bunch of them made, of course, to film the movie with in different positions. But a store in Philadelphia actually restored it. And they have the head, the torso, and some original pieces, and they use it in their store, which is in the fashion district in the city center in Philadelphia. Okay, so after getting fired again, this time from making pizza, he gets on his motorcycle, he goes to Illustra to pick up his girlfriend, Roxy. So Roxy is played by Carol Davis. Now, if she looks familiar to you, she was on Sex and the City. She was on that episode. Do you remember Amelita? That's who she played. They called her Eurotrash. Basically, it's the one where Carrie went home with that guy. He left $1,000 on his nightstand. And, she ended up having the girls over. They had breakfast and tried to figure out what to do with the $1,000. She's on that episode. Okay, so she's embarrassed. He's picking her up on a motorcycle. This is where we meet BJ, played by Steve Vinovich. So he's the regional manager. He is a lustra, according to her. So she's so embarrassed that she's being driven around on this motorcycle. Okay. So then they're out at dinner. He can't really afford much, so they just go for ice cream. She tells him, I think you should see a professional. And he says, what, like a hooker? She says, no, a psychiatrist. And he says, I can't afford that. She says, call one of the shrinks on the radio. And when he refuses, she's just like, never mind. She calls a cab. She leaves. So then poor guy's having the worst day. It starts to pour rain. His motorcycle won't crank. He's just having the worst time. So he has to push his motorcycle back home. As he's walking home, what happens? He sees his mannequin. He can't believe it. He sees her in the window. So he runs up to her and says, hey, it's you. You know, you're the first thing in a long time that I've created that made me feel like an artist. So I love that scene. Now, before filming this movie, Kim Cattrall says she spent 6 weeks posing for a Santa Monica sculptor. He captured her likeness. They made 6 mannequins, each with different expressions. Cattrall later recalled, there's no way to play a mannequin except if you want to sit there as a dummy. And she said, I did a lot of bodybuilding because I wanted to be as streamlined as possible. I wanted to match the mannequin as closely as I could. That's dedication. So then he goes back to the department store the next day. He's waiting for it to open so he can go in and try to get a job. Well, while he's out there, he meets Claire, played by Estelle Getty, who I love from Golden Girls. She plays Sophia on Golden Girls. And he starts talking to her, and as he's talking to her, the sign falls. It starts swinging back and forth very dangerously. He pushes her out of the way, saving her, and he basically has to jump on the swinging sign. And she's saying, young man, I'm sorry if I can make it up to you in any way. And he says, how about a job? She says, well, what do you do? And he says, anything. When can you start? After this, you're hired. And right then his rear touches this random wire and he gets shocked. So they're walking around this department store. Now this department store is called Prince & Company, but it's actually, it's a Macy's that's in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So he walks around with Claire. We find out she's only been in charge for 2 weeks of the store. She's trying to figure out how to make it, big and great. And what do we do? And he says, well, when do we open? And she says, we are open. This is where we see James Spader. I love James Spader. He plays Richards. He's on the phone with BJ, the guy from Illustra. This is where we find out his ulterior motive. He is talking to Illustra or BJ and saying, don't worry, you should be able to buy it soon. It's okay. So we kind of find out, okay, so he's trying to wreck the store so BJ can buy it. So this is one of the 3 movies that James Spader had worked on with Andrew McCarthy in a row. They did Pretty in Pink, they did this one, and they did Less Than Zero. All 3 titles were released between 1986 and 1987. Then McCarthy went on to direct Spader in The Blacklist. He directed a bunch of episodes of The Blacklist. Okay, so she says, this is Jonathan Swisher. Let's show him our gratitude. So Richards finds a job for him. He asks to work with mannequins. Richards is like, no, I got something better. He puts them in lingerie. So he's a stock boy. He's grabbing just boxes and boxes of lingerie. So he calls Roxy, tells her, hey, we're celebrating. I got a new job. She's at the office. This is a weird storyline where this guy Armand is disgusting with her at work. She basically has to slap him down. It comes into play later. It doesn't matter. Okay, back to Jonathan. So he's walking around the store. He's looking for his mannequin. He's looking And the doors all look alike, so he walks into this one, not her. Okay, keeps looking around. Well, he accidentally walks into a changing room. Richard catches him, and Jonathan calls him an asshole. And Richard said, "What was that?" And he said, "Oh, nice haul." So he finally finds his mannequin. He's so excited to see her. He gives her a hug. And this is where we meet Hollywood. Meshach Taylor comes out. And Meshach Taylor and Estelle Getty were in an episode of Designing Women together. But we meet Hollywood. He comes out and says, I love that you're talking to that mannequin. It adds a certain mystique to one's reputation. And that's how he says it. He says, "Listen, when you're finished with your conversation, please bring her to window number 3. So Hollywood's job is he's a window dresser there at Prince & Company. And he says, "I'm so glad you're working here. I never thought they'd hire anyone stranger than me." So Jonathan and Hollywood really hit it off. He tries to help Hollywood with the window display. He goes to grab supplies, and he runs into the security guard. Meet Captain Felix Maxwell. We know him as Felix. Okay, you guys, when I was doing my homework for this, again, I started this because I love Kim Cattrall, of course, Sex and the City. You will not believe the tie-in we have here. Do you know what Felix's dog's name is? Do you remember? Rambo. The damn dog's name is Rambo, and if you're watching just like that, you'll know why I'm rolling my eyes so hard at that name. But yeah, the dog's name is Rambo. So they protect the store. And he wants to know what is Jonathan's assignment. He says he's a window dresser. He makes some gay jokes about Hollywood. And Andrew, listen to me. Jonathan's not having it. He kind of tells him off. He goes back to meet up with Hollywood. Hollywood is telling him the window looks great. Hollywood's crying, saying his boyfriend Albert had left him and told him his thighs were too fat. So they have a conversation about thighs. So Jonathan can see that he's having a meltdown. He says, "Listen, you go home. I'll finish up. It's totally fine. No big deal." So he leaves. And as soon as he does, Jonathan sits down. And you guys, it's like the greatest part because we get to see Emmy come to life. This is kind of where we start to learn the rules of how she's able to appear. It's only when Jonathan is there and nobody else. So she comes to life and thanks him for making her. So he feels like he might be hallucinating, and he's asking, "Who hired you? How do you know who I am?" And she refers to the night before where she saw him looking lost and lonely in the rain, and he just can't believe his eyes and says, "It's food additives." She hugs him and says, "I'm so glad I picked you." She said she was born in Egypt, and she'll be 4,501 next April. So she tells him about her parents wanting to marry the camel dung dealer, but he saved her, and he's just in disbelief. He just keeps yelling, "Food additives, food additives." That's what's making him hallucinate. And this is where I'm going to leave it. Now that we have Kim Cattrall, and she's here, and she's come to life, I'm so excited to keep going with this and talk more details of this movie. So thank you guys so much for watching. This is where things get really fun, where she starts coming to life and they get to do fun things around the empty store. You know, the things I used to think about as a kid, like, what if you have the whole store to yourself? What would you do? You know, they start doing that. So lots of fun. I'm very excited to be covering this movie. I hope you're enjoying it. Let me know if you saw it when it came out or back in the day, or if it's a movie you like, or if you've ever heard of it before. Just let me know in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. I can't wait to come back with the next part, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.